Hey kids, welcome to lesson 13, list practice. Today we're just going to run through the problems here and talk through the solutions. Kids, remember, always read before you start coding. If we look up here, we're going to read the code, create a new list of numbers for the My Unlucky Number list, and use console.log to print off that list. If you look up here, we have a variable, My Lucky Numbers. This variable is actually a list. How can we tell? Well, it's in these little brackets, kids. We have 4 numbers, a console.log statement saying my lucky numbers, and then a call to those numbers to be printed off. And if I hit run, I bet you those numbers will get printed off down here. Let's go ahead and hit run and see. And you can see my lucky numbers got printed off right there. It also shows us our index. We start off at 0, 1, 2, 3. We just have to finish this off, kids, so we pretty much are copying the code there. First thing we need to do is make a variable, and I'm going to make a variable my unlucky numbers, and we're going to set that equal to our list. And remember, they are going to be brackets, kids. And don't forget your semicolon after that. We need to add numbers in there. Let's add some unlucky numbers, a 13. What else is unlucky? 21. We'll put 25, and how about 6? That's 4 numbers we added. And it looks like we already have this part here. We could concatenate it, that just add to it. Let's just add another console.log statement. And this is just going to be a call to this part of code right here. So we're just going to do my unlucky numbers. Don't forget your semicolon, kids. This should print off my unlucky numbers down there. Let's see what happens, kids. There's my numbers right there. So again, created our variable. And how do we know it's a list? It's in the brackets. Don't forget whatever we declare, we have to call. And we did. Well, let's move on to the next one, kids. Do this. In addition to numbers, a list can store strings. Strings are just word, kids. Read the starter code for the list of trees and run the program. Create your own list with 3 of your favorite songs in it. Use console.log to print off the list to the console. If you look down here, we have our console.log trees. So it should be printing off trees. We have a variable trees. That's actually a list. So our variable is storing a list, oak, maple, dogwood. Kids, you know, in my other classes, I teach woodshop. This is a great question. Then we're going to print off trees and then nothing in it. So it should say trees and then print off the list of trees. And then we should get something blank underneath it. Let's see if I'm right, kids. Well, you got trees. And then we got our 3 favorite trees, like I said. And then just a little blank part underneath. And it looks like I have to create something very similar, but with my favorite songs. What pressure, kids? What pressure? Well, we got the first line there, my favorite songs. Next thing we have to do is we have to create a variable. We'll just call this songs. And we have to add to our list here. And we can name any song we want. Since this is going to be a string and this is going to be printed off exactly, these have to be in quotes. What should I put here? Well, I can put the song my wife and I danced to at our wedding. One of my favorite K-pop songs, kids. Do 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 do. And then let's go with an oldie but goodie. Let's put my other favorite song, Never Going to Give You Up. Don't worry, kids. I'm not going to sing it. Don't forget, we need our semicolon afterwards. After we populate our list, well, we can go to our console.log and we can just print off songs. And we really don't need this space afterwards, kids. That's just adding something so we have a space in between. This should print off my 3 favorite songs. Well, let's see if I'm right, kids. Well, if you see down here, trees, prints off my trees, my favorite songs, prints off the song. So it looks like we can add not only numbers, kids, but words. And remember, the only difference with words, we need these little quotes because we want whatever's in there printed off exactly. Well, let's move on to the next one, kids. Do this, print to the console the first, third, fifth, and last animals in a list using the list name and index. Don't forget, list indexes in JavaScript start at 0, so the last index is always a list length -1. Why is it list length -1? Again, kids, we index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That means if I have in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 items, well, if I want to call the last one, it's technically 10 because we start at 0. This is just our equation to get between how humans count and how computers index, kids. That's all that's doing. If you look here, animal 0, well, that's just going to call the 0 one. We have to call the third 0, 1, 2, 3. So that should be a raccoon. Then the fifth 4, 5. That should be the rabbit. And the last is turtles. I like turtles, kids. And that should be our last one. What's another reason we use this -1? Well, kids, I could keep adding to this list and I don't have to hard code a number in. I don't have to point out the last one or keep track of what the last one is. I can always just call the last number by this -1. So this is a way we can soft code it in so we can keep adding to it instead of a hard code where there's a number there. Well, let's go ahead and take care of these. So we're going to do console.log. Which list are we going to call from? Well, we want to call from our animals list. And what position? We want to go from the third position. Don't forget your semicolon. We're going to rinse and repeat, kids. What list do we want to call from? Well, we want to call from the animals list. We want it spelled right. What position? Well, this one should be position 5 and your semicolon. Again, all that's doing is just calling the specific index. This one is going to be a little trickier, kids, because we're going to animals, right? The list stays the same. Here's the part where it's a little different. This, we have to tell it what list we want to go to the end of. So we needed to go animals.length -1. Kids, we put this in a parenthesis because this is the equation. So much like in math, when we wanted to make sure we're just going from that specific list, that's why we put it in there. So that's why we have a bracket and a parenthesis. Well, let's go ahead and hit run. Well, cat was the first one. Third one is raccoon, 0, 1, 2, 3. Number 5 was the rabbit, 4, 5. And then the last one, I like turtles, is whatever we soft code in because it's -1. So it goes there. Neat little way to use a list, kids. This is a fun one, kids. Do this. Make the Magic 8-Ball app work. When the screen is clicked, make a random string from the answer list display on the 8-ball. Use the random list access pattern to update the list code. And let's take a look at our code here. We have our variable answers, which is a list. And we have a bunch of things here. Yes, absolutely. Maybe don't think about it. I'm not sure. Ask me again. I don't have a good feeling about this. We have another variable index, which is set to 0. We have our update screen. Call, our function, says to set the output text there to the answer index. So it looks like whatever's here is going to be printed off by whatever's index number we are here. We're also going to play a little sound when we do it. Well, what is this problem asking us to do, kids? What we're basically going to do is all of these are going to be a number. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Whatever random number we pick, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we want that to be printed off. All we're really doing here, kids, is making a random number generator. And how do we do that? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to call our index, right? And if you look under math, we have a random number. So we can just drag that in there. And our random number, where do we want to go from? Well, kids, this is just going to be like the last one. Where does our indexes start from? Well, they start off at 0. So we just want to start there. And then under here, we just want the same thing. We want the answer because that's our list, right? And we want it to be the length minus 1, like that. Don't forget your other parenthesis and your semicolon. It's answers to. Watch your spelling, kids. Oh, that is important. All this is saying is index is going to become a random number between 0 and whatever the length of the list is. And again, I could put 10 there, kids, but we can keep adding to it. And that's the point. Well, let's run and see what happens. How fun is that, kids? Again, all that's doing is when we press on that, just picking a random number. The random number is picking whatever index string we have there. Pretty neat, kids. Do this. This app should let the user scroll through their class, but the left button isn't working. Or on the starter code, add the code to the left button so the user can scroll back to the left after scrolling to the right. Use the list scrolling pattern that we saw before. So kids, remember back at the beginning of this in the Explorer, there was the fashion one. And at the end of that unit, there was 2 blocks of code. One was to set through scrolling numbers. The other was for images. And I said, kids, you're just going to have to memorize this. Well, hopefully you did, kids, because it's coming back. Let's look at this code. We have a variable index. It's set to 0. We have our variable classes, which is actually a list. And we have 4 in there. Kids, Mr. Klingbill would be very angry if we let it put gym there. It's physical education. Then we have a call to update screen. Update screen is this function here. It's setting the text class label, which is this part right here. And it's setting it to whatever class index we're on. And then we're setting the text of period label to whatever period it is, plus index plus 1. That means, again, kids, humans count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Computers index 0 through 9. So this is just our equation to get back and forth. Let's hit run and see what happens. As you can see, we are just going up. But nothing happens when we go down. It only lets us up to get up to 4, which is pretty good. The code is right here, kids. So basically all we have to do is recreate this. And this is saying if the index is less than the class length minus 1, index is going to add 1. That means as long as the index is less than the total length, we're going to keep adding. And then we're going to call to update screen and then play that fun sound we just had. Kids, this is going right. So all I really have to do is go left. So index, and this is less than. So we have to go to greater than. And our classes length. Well, kids, it's not going to be our length on this one, is it? because this is just adding to it. We don't ever want to go further than 0. So this one is just going to be 0. That means if we get less than 0, we should stop. And how are we going to do that? Well, kids, we're just going to take index, and then we're going to take index minus 1. After that, we have to call our updated screen. So we're just going to go update screen. And then we're going to play our sound. All that means, kids, as long as we are larger than 0, we can go backwards. But if we get up to 0, we're going to stop, and we shouldn't. Because if we didn't, kids, if we put an equal, then we can get to 0 and that'll give us an out of bounds. We'll take a look at that here in a second. Let's run it. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we get to 1. Look, it doesn't do anything. But look what would happen if I put an equal here, kids. We'll go run. Still goes up. But now I get an error because I can go out of bounds. There is no 0 indexed to that. So be careful when you're using your greater than or equal to when you're doing this, kids. It's very important to know. But that's the code for that one. Pretty neat. Let's move on to our next one, kids. The characters in a string each have an index. String.length returns the length of a string. String.substring start end returns a portion of the string beginning at the start index and ending with a letter before the end index. This is an important sentence here, kids. Beginning with the start index and ending with the letter before the end index. Do this, run the code to see how these two commands will work. Follow the pattern of the starter code to print off the name length of the first character, longest country, and the city name in the console. Here we have a variable longest animal. Kids, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. We have a variable longest country. We have the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The longest city. Again, I'm not going to try that, kids. We have here console.log. The longest animal's name is, and we're printing off the longest animal. It has how many characters? And then we're going to print off the first character of it. So 0, 1. So in this one, it should print off this variable right here. Then we should get the length of it. And then we should get the letter P. Let's see if that's what happens, kids. Well, there's the name. There's the number that I didn't count out and the letter P. That means we're going to have to redo this for the next two. So console.log. And then this is going to be, we want this printed off literal. So we're going to put it in a string. The longest country name is in a space, and we're going to concatenate. And then we're just going to do longest country. Then we're going to do another console.log here, kids. And it has how many letters? And we are going to do a plus, and it is longest country dot length. And then we're going to say that is that many characters long. And then we're doing that again. This time we want to know the first letter. Its first letter is, we're giving it a space there. And then we have to call that substring, this one right here. So we're just going to go longest country dot substring, because we want to go from that one, and then we just want to do 0, 1. This should give me that. Let's see if we're right. We are. Let's do a console.log in here. Let's just do a space so we know what we're seeing here. Let's reset run. And it looks like we're missing a semicolon here. Let's reset our code. Ooh, all the way down there. We have to put one there. And again, it looks like we're printing everything off. Let's do our last one here. Let's do just another console.log. Just a little space there so we can see what we're doing here. And another statement. The longest city name is, and a space there. We're going to concatenate, add it together. And then this is longest city. Don't forget your semicolon there. Another console.log. We have to figure out how many characters it has. It has, and then longest city dot length plus characters. We want this in quotes. And don't forget your semicolon there. Just one more, kids. Its first letter is, and then we're going to do a longest city dot substring. Then we're going to do the 0, 1 because we just want the first one. And then a semicolon. Woo, that was a lot of them, kids. Let's go ahead and run and see if that's what we get. And 36 characters, 56, 187. Woo! Looks like we need a little space here, kids. So that was a little part we need to do. First letter K, first letter T, first letter P. Let's just fix that off, kids. And we also had country capitalized. We didn't need that. Just run it again. That looks a little better, kids. And that's our answer. Pretty fun. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This program is trying to use substrings to pull out different parts of a date stored in a string in the format month, day, year. For example, February 10th, 2015 would be 2/10/2015. Do this. Debug the program so the correct information is being pulled into each variable. Review the documentation for substring start end. You need to remember how it works. Let's take a look at our code. We have our date 5/21/1994. We have variables month, day, year. Day substring is 1/3. Day is 2/5. And then the year is the length -4 and the date -1. Well, kids, it looks like these are just the wrong numbers here. Because again, remember, we start counting at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, every character in here is going to count as a position on the index. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That means if we are doing the month, we need 0 and 1. So we should have this one is, because we want to print it up to the last character. Remember, it'll print up to the last one. So if we want these first two, we have to call to 3. So it should be 0, 1, 2 to print that off. Because we need to go to the third character to print off the first 2. That means in this one, it should be 0, 2. The day, well, 0, 1, 2, we should start off at 3, 4, 5. So it should be on this one, 3, 5. This one has the date length -4. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's going to -1, kids. That should print off 199. We don't need the -1. We just want to go the whole way to the list so we can take that off. Well, that should print it off right. Let's run 5/21/1994. Remember, kids, every character is an index. Read the code below. Use append items to add 2 more food items to the list. Notice how the list length of the list grows each time a food item is added. And if we come down here, we have our food list: carrots, pizza, lettuce, strawberries. That's an odd list, kids. My food list, a plus of food, so it's just calling a food, and it should print off the length. We're adding an item, peanuts. And again, kids, remember there's 2 ways to insert or append items. Append item adds it to the end. And remember, insert will go to a specific spot. We're going to append item peanuts. We're going to see the list, and then we're going to ask its length. And it looks like we have to do that for 2 more things. So we have to add 2 more items. Append item. What list do we want to append? Food. What do we want to add? I'm going to do sugar-free cookies. Don't forget your semicolon. We have to come down here, do the same thing. What list do we have to go to? Food. What do we want to add? I'm going to add sugar-free Jell-O. You see where my mind's at tonight, kids. Now, when I hit run, I should get all the information that I just added. You can see we started off with 4. We added peanuts. Remember, append adds to the end. We now have 5 items. Sugar-free cookies. Well, that's 6. Sugar-free Jell-O. Well, that's 7. So append items adds to the end of a list. And remember, kids, it updates it afterwards. Do this. We can turn a list of food into a food dairy app. Read the code. Use the append item to add new items to the food dairy list when the add item button is pressed. Take a look at line 17. Can you figure out how join works? We're talking about join down there, kids. Looks like we have our variable food. It has oatmeal, pancakes, crackers, and peanuts. We have a update screen call. Down here, it sets the text of dairy output, which is this screen here, to food.join. We'll see what happens down here in a minute. In our event of the add button is clicked, we're going to get the text from dairy input here, and we're going to create a new variable, new food. And that new food is just getting whatever text we're putting in there. And then it looks like we have to append our items. Then we're setting the text, playing a sound, and updating the screen. Well, kids, if we just have to append, that's not too hard. We just go to append item. What list do we want to append? Well, we want to append the food item. And if we look here, it goes list item. We just want to do whatever new variable we just did. So if we go new food, we can call that. So whatever we get there is just going to update it. Let's see if I'm right, kids. We have a couple of things there. Let's add pizza. Ooh, we got a fun little sound. Sugar-free Jell-O. There we go. Now, what is this food join doing? It looks like this call is just joining all the new things together. So this is adding all the new updated lists together. So anytime we add an item or append an item, it is adding it to our larger list and calling it. So all join does is take the new and the old and puts it together, kids. This is a pretty powerful piece of code. Just understand that's what it's doing. Just taking all that different code, pulling it together. 2 more, kids. Almost there. The program creates 2 lists. Use the remove item and insert item commands to fix the following problems. Remove all numbers from the animal list. Add all missing months to the month list in their correct position. Remember, indexes start at 0. We have first variable animals. It's a list. Looks like we have cat, dog, 2, bird, raccoon, bear, 11, rabbit, coyote, deer, 13, buffalo, lizard, turtle. And we want to remove item animal number 2. Well, that's removing 0, 1, 2, that one right there. So it's taking that one off. Then we're printing off our animal list right there. We have another variable months in January, February, March, May, June, July, August, October, December. Insert items, remember it's going to a specific location. We're going to months, position 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So that's where May is. It's going to insert that, move it down. Looks like we have to insert code for September and November, then print it off. Well, that's not too bad, kids. First thing we have to do is get rid of these numbers here and really just have to follow what's happening up there, right? Remove items from what list? Our animals list, and what position. Now, here's the tricky part, kids. Well, this 2 has been removed. So for our purposes, it doesn't exist anymore. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're removing 5. If you put 6, well, kids, that's actually going to remove rabbit because once we remove an item, we have to start our count over. Remember that, kids. It's just a little trick part there. Again, what part are we removing from? Animals. We have to remove 13, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it should be 8, kids. Again, we're skipping over the ones we've already removed. I think that's our remove items. Let's take a look. All of our numbers are gone, kids. Looks pretty good. That means all we have to do now is add some stuff. And what do we have to add here? Well, we have to add September and November. Kids, do you remember the 21st of September? I won't sing, kids, don't worry. We're just going to steal what we did up there. Insert items. What list? Months. What position? 0, 1, 2. Now remember, kids, we insert an item, so we have to keep track of that one. So let's start again. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we want to go to position 8. That means we want to add 8. And what do we want to add? Well, we want to add the month of September. We got to do one more now for October. Oh, no, for November. I'm sorry, kids. And what list are we inserting it to? The months list. Where's that one at? Well, again, we have some added ones we have to keep track. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we want to add it to 10, and we want it to be November. Don't forget your semicolon. Then we're going to print off months. Let's see if I'm right. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Kids, I think that's how the months goes, and I think that's in order. So again, kids, remember insert and remove both do the same thing. Which list and what number when we're adding, and then we have to tell it what to add. One more, kids, almost done. Do this. This app keeps track of the user's top 10 favorite songs. The user should be able to add new songs into the list. Add code that will insert a new song into the list in a position selected and remove the last song from the end of the list. There should only ever be 10 songs on the list. Well, that's sad, kids. Don't forget, indexes start at 0 and you can add and remove songs. We'll look over the documentation for insert and remove items. Kids, we just did that, so we're perfectly fine. Let's take a look at our code. We have our variable song list. It has some oldies. I won't say goodies, they're just oldies. We have a bunch of songs there. We have a call to update screen. Update screen here sets the properties of song output, this part here. And what does it do? Well, we are doing text and the song list right here, join. And remember, kids, this helps me add and remove stuff. So we have our dot join there. This N just means it should be in a line format. This is just a new paragraph. So we should have a bunch of lines instead of it all as one long continuous sentence. Well, kids, let's go down here and just start adding some stuff. So add code to get the name of the new song and its position in the list. Well, kids, for that one, we're just going to do a new variable. We'll call it song, and we're just going to get the text. Oops. And we are just going to get text from this part right here, song input. So we're getting text from song input. And then we have to get the rank or what position where it's at. So we're getting the name of the song and the position. So we're just going to do another variable. We're going to call this POS, which is position, kids, not what you're thinking. And then we just want to get that from the rank drop-down menu. I declared, but I need to call these kids. We have to add code to insert the song into the list now. That means we're just going to do our insert item. And we are going to do, well, what list, kids? The big one, song list. And we need what position or index. This time it's just rank or the position. And then we need the new song the user just added. That means we're inserting an item. Ooh, we only need one parenthesis there, kids. And again, if you go to your insert item, it goes to the list. What list? Well, it's the giant one. What index? Well, kids, that's whatever position we're at. And the position is just that drop down menu. And then the song is whatever song the user put in there. Now we have to get code that removes the last one because there can only be 10. And insert's going to add at whatever position we go to, and we just want to get rid of the last one, right? So we're going to go remove item. And then what list we removing from? Well, song list. And which one? Well, kids, probably the last one, number 10. After that, we play a sound and it updates the screen. Let's see if that's what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we can add a new one to whatever part we want. Let's add one at the beginning and we'll call this one, well, let's put in our favorite, Never Gonna Give You Up. And we can add that song in our update screen. See, it went to 1, kids, because remember, we go to index 0. So if we go to 2, 0, 1, 2, we should get it in between there. Let's just put test 2 so we could see it. And you can see it goes to 0, 1, 2 position. And kids, if we go between 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's do test 3. We should get down here between those two. Oh, it's at the end. Let's do number 4 here. And it's at the end of the list, so it's never going to let us add to the end there. We do 5, we can just add somewhere in the middle. That's all that's doing, kids, inserting wherever the position we pick. Pretty neat if you ask me. I'm pretty sure all of the things we just went over, kids, we're going to have to use in a lesson 4. Well, that's it for this video, kids. Hopefully you found this helpful. As always, if you have any questions, come see me. Otherwise, kids, I'll see you on the next video. See you later, kids. Bye. Bye. See you later.